What's good, YouTube? And I am bringing you a deck profile of Cubics. Um, Basically, it is the OTK variant. I just really wanted to shoot it out there. I know I've been going for a minute, and I'm going to delete most of my videos and post new ones. So this is for the Cubic players. This is for the new November E-ban list. I hope you guys like it. It's pretty consistent. I'll do some test hands in a later video, but right now let's just jump into this because it's 43 cards and I want to get through these cards as fast as possible. So boss monster is Crimson Nova. Can't be summoned unless you have three. You gotta reveal three different cubic names to summon them. Basically, and because of that, it's difficult to summon them. But the ratio in this deck is about 50% cubic, if not a little bit over 50% cubic. So basically, you'll be able to summon him almost all the time, as long as he's in your hand. So I'd say a good 80 to 90% of the time, especially if you don't get ashed during any of your search and draw plays. He can't be affected by monsters with an original attack of 3k. When he attacks and destroys a monster, he can attack again. It doesn't have to be in a row, so you can attack with another monster, then use his second attack to attack directly if you want to. And at the end of the turn, he burns both you and your opponent for 3k, which more than likely ends the game right there. He is your main win condition after all. Duza is, I run him at 3 because he's your secondary monster and he's your primary combo starter. So basically, Duza is a foolish on legs for cubics. He'll dump any cubic monster or cubic spell trap in your graveyard on summon. That's special summon or normal summon, it doesn't matter. Next is he'll gain 200 attack when a monster is sent to your graveyard. He'll gain 200 attack for each monster, differently named monster in your graveyard, which is pretty dope. It's a good way to defend him or to make him stronger so he can beat over other monsters. 3 Vijams. Vijam is an important stall card. It can't be destroyed by battle. It's one of the primary cubics that you play because it can't be destroyed by battle, and also because when it's attacked into, you can change it into a continued spell card and put a cubic counter on your opponent's monster that attacked into it. Basically, what that means is that your opponent has a Fiendish Chain on it. Your opponent can't activate that monster's effect, and that monster cannot attack. So they basically have to use it for fodder for like a link monster or something like that, which is good for getting rid of problematic monsters if you're siding the card Spirit Barrier. It's really good. Next, I play one of each of the cubic beasts for cubic names. So one Dark Garnix, one Blade Garudia, and one Behemoth. The way the hierarchies work in cubics is that the level 2 guy, each level needs that number of sacrifices -1. So what that means is the level 2 would need 1 sacrifice, the level 3 would need 2 sacrifices, and the level 4 would need 3 sacrifices. And that's basically how you summon these guys, because they can't be normal summoned. So you have to special summon them by sacrificing that, like I said, their level -1 number of cubic monsters. So these guys, when they're summoned properly, they gain 1,000 times the number of sacrifices that you needed to summon them. So it's like 1 sacrifice 1,000, 2 sacrifice 2,000, 3 sacrifice 4,000. The beasts also have the higher level beasts have the effect of attacking their level -1, which also means that this guy, your level 3 can attack twice and your level 4 can attack 3 times. And this is on their special summon or without, which means you can summon them improperly, activate cards like Cubic Karma to boost their attack, and then they can still attack those multiple times in order to activate their next effect, which goes into summoning Vijams from the graveyard and then searching the next card in the hierarchy, which is really, really good. But they have to destroy, these cards specifically have to destroy a monster in order to go into that effect. Both the level 4 monsters have the same effect of being able to Behemoth and Endoria Doomvolt have the same effect of when they're destroyed by an opponent's card or sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect or by battle, they automatically get to summon 3 cubic monsters from your graveyard to the field, and they add a cubic card to your hand, which is really good. Next, I run one of each fairy, which is the king hierarchy, which is one Garagao, one Vulcan Dragony, and one Endoria Doomvolt. These guys burn for 800 when they're special summoned from your hand inappropriately or appropriately. So the proper way or the improper way. Also, they gain 800 for each sacrifice that they need. So the level 2 god needing 1 gains 800. The level 3 god gains 16 needing 2. And then the level 4 guy gains, Endoria Doomvolt gains 24 for needing 3 sacrifices. Endoria Doomvolt also has the same effect as, like I said, Behemoth, where if he's sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect or by battle, he automatically gets to summon up to 3 cubic monsters that can be summoned, and he gets to search a cubic card from your deck, which is really, really good. That's all my cubic monsters, and then their support would be 3 Summoner Monk. He's your secondary combo starter. He's good for going into your rank 4 toolbox, and he's also good for getting your dudes on the field, but he's also good for going into Omega thanks to Vylon Prism. I run 1 Vylon Prism. That Vylon Prism has the ability for when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, so from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points. It'll equip to any monster that you have on the field that of your choosing, and then that monster gains 1k every time it battles during damage calculation, which is really good for a Nova or for your Duza when you don't want them to die or whatever. And then the last one of I play is the Gen X Ally Birdman, only because I can only play one of, and because he's a dark monster. There's also a degenerate combo using Gen X Ally Birdman, where you can actually summon level 7 synchros such as Zeta, Cyphering Lord Zeta, and Clearwing Synchro Dragon. The reason why I use him over what's that new card, the Fishing, I forget what it's called, but Dragon of the Fishing, I just don't like its effect that you have to half your life points in order to get it to do the special summoning. Next is the spell cards. So 3 karma on field. You can pitch up to 3 cubic card or 3 Vijams from your hand or your deck, or both, to gain 800 for every Vijam sent for a cubic monster targeted by the card, to gain up to 2400, basically 800 for every Vijam that's sent to the graveyard. Also, while on the field, if you summon a Vijam from your graveyard or at all using a monster effect during your opponent's turn, using a cubic monster effect during your opponent's turn, this card will destroy itself, and also your opponent will lose half their life points. Like, this card will literally cut their life points in half. A lot of people that don't play cubics a lot don't know about this effect, so when that happens, it's really good for you. But in the graveyard, it basically acts, you can banish it, and it acts as a rota for all your cubic monsters. Next is Wave. On field, it's basically cuts your opponent's monsters attacks in half, and then it doubles your cubic monsters attack, which is really good. In Grave, you can banish it in any number of cubic monsters dependent that can match up to the amount of monsters that your opponent has on the field, and place cubic counters on them, which means all those monsters get Phoenix chained. Next is your draw engine of Dark World Dealings and the Lure of Darkness. Basically, Dark World Dealings is good for pitching the cubic spell traps that have effects in the graveyard, and then the Lure of Darkness is really good for is okay because of the fact that you have 10 dark monsters that you can use as lure targets. So more than likely, this is almost always going to be live because you only play 43 cards. So it would stand to reason that 25% of the time, Allure of Darkness will be live. Next is Foolish. Foolish Burial Goods basically allows you to send the karma to search or send a unification so you're protected. Basically, it's a really good card. I run it at 3 just specifically for those reasons. Even if you run into 2, because of the fact that you play so many cards that pitch cards from your hand, you actually are okay with getting that 1 dead draw if you get 2 of them in the same hand. Twin Twisters. Don't like back row. What more can you say? Recurring Nightmare. You can target 2 dark monsters in your graveyard with 0 defense. Both Vijam and Nova fit this description, and basically you can add them to your hand. So that's really good for getting your Nova back, or if you already have 2 cubic monsters in your hand and you have a Nova in the graveyard for whatever reason and the Vijam in the graveyard, you can get that Nova and that Vijam in your hand and then use those 3 cubic reveals to get your Nova back on the field. Traps, really simple. 3 unification of cubic lords. You don't use it for its on field effect. You use it for its graveyard effect, which is to banish it, and then banish it whenever a cubic monster is removed from the field in any way, shape, or form. That's to your hand, back to your hand, back to the deck, into the graveyard, banished, whatever. You can banish this, and then you can summon a level 4 lower cubic monster, ignoring its summoning conditions. This card is just for protection. It's really iffy, especially now that Lynx is out. But Cubic Rebirth basically negates an attack, a direct attack, as long as you have a cubic monster to summon from your hand. It'll negate a direct attack, summon a cubic monster for level 4 lower cubic monster from your hand, and then it'll put a cubic counter on the monster that attacked. Also, it'll summon any copies of that monster that your opponent has in the deck, and it'll summon them to the field, and it'll place cubic counters on them. Any card that has cubic counters placed on it by Cubic Rebirth, its attack automatically sets to 0. So that's also really good, and it gives you an opportunity to attack into them, especially if they're playing a deck that does not run an extra deck, which is kind of stupid on their part. But if they are running an extra deck, or a deck that doesn't need an extra deck, like Trick Stars or whatever, it's actually really good for you. Next, you have your extra deck that you really don't need, but I run it anyway. In my extra deck, I run the Crimson Nova Trinity. He's hard to get into, but sometimes you do. His effect to cut your opponent's life points in half every time he attacks, and the fact that he's not affected by any card effects at all whatsoever is really good. Also, he's really good against Trick Stars, so if you manage to summon him during the Trick Star match, any battle damage or any effect damage that you would take, your opponent takes instead while he's on the field. It's really crazy. This card is like absolutely insane and really hard to beat over on top of that. Clearwing Synchro Dragon is a really good card. Basically, Clearwing Synchro Dragon protects your level 5s from being targeted specifically. So it's really good to have it on the field at the same time as having Nova, just in case your opponent tries to target your Nova with like crap targeting cards or something like that. Sideframe Lord Zeta is good for dealing with problematic special summon monsters. Sideframe Lord Omega is for pulling your Karma and your Unification back into your graveyard to use their banishment effects again. And then we go to our rank 4 toolbox, which is Anti-Luminescent Knight, because like I said, I don't like my cards being popped, so I'd rather your cards be popped instead. 2 number 41 Baguskas. Baguska is really good in the current format. He's just an all-time just stall card, period, point blank. Super Dora, Gustav, or Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max for that extra 2,000 to burn your opponent to death. There's a lot of times where you do come up with 2 Novas on the field at the same time, especially with this particular build. If you don't get ashed, it can happen. And then, of course, your Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Super Dora basically, once again, protects the king, protects one of your Novas from being affected by cards, which is really good, by card effects, which is really good, just to protect your Nova like that. So that's your extra deck. I don't have a side to show you guys because I don't like showing my side, but I like the deck the way it is. But like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you guys think of the deck profile, and I'll see you guys soon.